Joe Burrow made headlines again on Wednesday for what he said during his press conference. Let's break down exactly what the Bengals star quarterback meant as he answered questions on Wednesday.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. He's James Rapien, I'm Jake Liscow, and we've had you covered here on Locked On Bengals since well before Joe Burrow was the guy that made news for the Cincinnati Bengals. Since 2016, your daily one-stop shop for all things Bengals. We've got Joe Burrow presser translations for you, as that once again has caught the national eye. It's being discussed on all of the NFL morning shows on Thursday, and we're here to once again cut through the rubbish out there and bring to you exactly what we think is going on with Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Not that the national media is entirely wrong all the time, but there sure is a lot of noise out there. That's where we start today before we dive into really expectations for the rest of the season after we learned about Zac Taylor's contract status and Taylor refusing to elaborate on that on Wednesday. But with another backup quarterback joining the mix this week for the Miami Dolphins, one of 3 different quarterbacks they'll be playing the rest of the way that were not starting for their respective teams at the beginning of the season, expectations really high for the final 3 games of the season. If this is going to be what they're doing going forward, they're running it back with these guys. We'll get to that conversation later in the show. But James, we start with Joe Burrow, who clarified some things, had some other comments that were a little bit cryptic, a little bit vague, took a lot of long pauses during his presser on Wednesday as he was calculating how he wanted to answer certain questions. The everydayers heard us talk about this last week after another presser for him. This is 2 straight weeks where Joe Burrow's words have caught national attention and attention from those close to him as well. And, well, if you make us your first listen, you've heard us talk about this too, James, but you were there. What were your primary takeaways as you listened to Joe Burrow in another interesting presser from him on Wednesday?
It's the never-ending story, and it isn't going to end. This is going to happen all off season. It's going to happen. Like I know you were reacting in real time on Wednesday, and it's like, oh, take this and make it this, and but that's what it is, because he didn't shut the door on it. And what he didn't shut the door on is playing elsewhere. And so that is going to turn into, oh, well, this team should trade for him and that team should trade for him. And guess what? All of those teams should be talking about Joe Burrow and wanting Joe Burrow. And all I hope, and we'll hear from Joe in just a second, is that his comments hit Mike Brown smack dab between his eyes, hit Katie Blackburn right between her eyes, and she walked right by me during practice on Wednesday when they practiced in the indoor. And Joe made his comments after practice, and it was a short, essentially walkthrough session. And at this time of year, that's what Wednesdays are, but a little bit more than that. But you get my point. So it was a quick practice. Nonetheless, Joe Burrow, his future, it is up in the air, and maybe not in 2026, but beyond that. And the Bengals need to feel that. And I think the reason he was vague is because it keeps the narrative, not just the narrative. I don't think he really cares about the narrative, but it keeps the pressure on the Bengals front office to deliver, because they failed for 3 straight years now. Here's Joe Burrow in a back and forth with Paul Dehner Jr. about his football future in 2026 and beyond.
Is there any world in your mind where you're not the quarterback of the Bengals next year?
I can't see that, no.
Have you ever thought about the possibility of not being the quarterback here during your career? Or
you think about a lot of things.
when you look at quarterbacks over the course of their time, great ones, Peyton, Brady, you kind of have to understand that you never know what this league will bring. And what did you learn from watching how their careers unfolded?
Yeah, a lot of crazy things happen every year. Micah Parsons got traded right before the season, I think this year. That is something I hadn't seen in a long time in the NFL. So crazy things can happen.
Crazy things can happen. Your reaction when you saw the clip that went viral, which is very much that beginning part versus that whole entire session there and back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, my impression is that they can't keep losing and expect Joe to not be louder at the very least. I don't think his immediate future is in doubt. I don't think he's thinking like, man, I got to get out of here. I don't think that's in his thoughts at all right now. I think, he talked about the Andrew Luck comparison a little bit too. And I think put that stuff to bed. We'll probably get to that in a minute, but he wants to play football at a high level for a long time. He wants to win, and he's under contract with the Bengals for a while. He's got T and Jamar locked up here for at least a couple more years. I think that is probably the time frame he's looking at, is how long he's there with those receivers under contract. And then if they can't figure it out in that window, when they have those guys on offense, then I think rubber meets the road. That's my impression. I think he's acknowledging the fact that he has considered that in a long NFL career, and Paul Dehner invoking Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, he might end up on another team. Sure. It's also possible that he's just being honest. You think about a lot of things like, yeah, sure. I think about not doing this podcast sometimes. Does that mean I have any intention whatsoever of not doing this podcast? No, absolutely not. Sometimes thoughts pop into your head. Sometimes they're invasive thoughts. Sometimes it's like, man, I'm sick of James. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes it's, I don't want to spend my mornings waking up and talking about a team that's 4-10. That's in my head for a half second, right? And the reason that I say this is not to cast any doubts on me doing this podcast. I'm not going anywhere. But sometimes you think
Burrow
about things.
Is leaving. He wants to cover the Rams.
Sometimes you think about things, and it's just a thought. It doesn't mean anything. Now, could Joe Burrow have said, yeah, I've thought about it, but I want to play here for my whole career?
Sure.
Yeah, he could have said that. Could there have been a follow-up question that was, hey, you've thought about it, but ideally, do you play for this team for your whole career? That didn't happen. Maybe that happens in the future. I don't know.
Sure.
But there are a number of things that could mean. I don't think it means anything for the immediate future other than, hey, man, we better figure this thing out. And part of it is he acknowledges his unavailability as part of the equation here. Like, he cannot be helping this team win if he's not there. I think that's part of it too. Like, they couldn't win without him, sure, but I don't know how much he's thinking about that when he was unavailable for so much of this year, and he was unavailable 2 years ago. He's thinking about last year, I think. He's thinking about not being able to win games he's playing this year when he's playing well. But I think that there is time for them to get this right. But he also acknowledges, like, hey, man, things do need to change. I like our coaches. I understand the work we put in this building, but things need to go differently. What we've been doing isn't working.
Yeah, I think your point about him acknowledging his thought process is a good one because of exactly what he said about the Andrew Luck stuff. And there's a difference, but I think it's important. And he wasn't asked specifically about Andrew Luck, but I asked him if he had ever thought about not playing and considered not playing. And I think they go hand in hand with his thought process and how he was approaching every question he was answering on Wednesday.
Everybody's trying to do everything in their power to make me not play football, and I feel like I'm fighting it, like fighting everybody else. Like, I just want to play ball. That's all I want to do.
There's been a lot of speculation after last week, just in general, your comments last week. How much do you love playing football? Have you ever thought about not playing?
I mean, you think about it, but you think about a lot of different things in your life, just like everybody does. You think about all different possibilities that could happen. I'm going to be playing for a long time. I expect to play for a long time, and I expect to play well and consistently great for a long time.
You think about a lot of things.
Crazy.
About every possibility. And so that's what I think, that's the context that you won't see, that you come to Locked On Bengals to see, to get, because Joe's acknowledging, yeah, I love football. I want to play for forever. Have I thought about not playing? Sure. And like you said, it's the exact comp of I'm not doing Locked On Bengals. There's no scenario, by the way, where Jake Liscow does Locked On Rams. But you get my point. I don't know why I'm pointing out the Rams, maybe because everyone on social media somehow thinks that the Rams are getting Burrow. In reality, I think he was trying to be as open as possible. I also am glad he didn't say, I'm going to be here forever. I love it here. I think everybody's doing their job at a high level, because they're not. The Bengals have failed now. And not just the crazy part is, and I'm ranting here, not just in the past 3 years, 2022 was a failure. They didn't win the Super Bowl. And when you don't win the Super Bowl in the Joe Burrow era, when you probably need to be in position to, well, guess what? That's a failure. There's more here. I've ranted. We'll hear from Jake Liscow. I'll let you speak on Locked On Bengals coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Maybe you're like me and you're going to Miami. Maybe you are. Maybe you're going to be at Hard Rock Stadium and you need a ticket still. Well, guess what? If you need a last-minute ticket, Gametime is the perfect place to go. And it's not just NFL. No. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, when Jake was 26 years old. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. That's why the Gametime app is clutch. It gives fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and boom, hit the app so you can get World Cup tickets. I've used Gametime to go to NFL games, NBA Eastern Conference Finals games, comedy shows, your favorite live events. Gametime is the perfect app to use. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets or tickets to any event all year long with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today.
The bit of the Burrow presser that we haven't talked about yet that I'm interested in talking about as we wrap up this conversation and transition to the football games that still exist for the Bengals this season, because there are football games that still have to be played and there are things that matter in those games, is the comment that I alluded to earlier, James, when he said that what they're doing isn't working and they're going to have to get creative. And he once again threw his support behind this coaching staff, but acknowledged as well that what they're doing hasn't worked the last 3 years, and acknowledge, his availability is part of this as well. There are a lot of people that want to get on Joe for his availability. He's made of glass, blah, blah, blah. People want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Fine. Say what you want. But the reality is that this is 2 straight years of pathetic roster building on the defensive side of the ball. And whether it is their approach to evaluation in the draft, we've talked on this show, and the everydayers have heard us talk on this show about the Bengals going to the draft multiple times in years at the weakness of the draft class. Last year, linebacker, 2 years ago, defensive tackle, and that not paying dividends and missing on the strength of respective draft classes after the first round. Last year, the strength was at defensive end. They took a defensive end in the first round. Great. We haven't seen a lot of Shamar Stewart. They missed Walter Nolan by 1 pick. That's one we're going to be looking back at for a long time, I think, the way we look back at Frank Ragnow and Billy Price. Last year, they went to the strength of the class in the first round. Amarius Mims. Amarius Mims, one of the brightest spots this season. Learn that lesson, that drafting from the strength of a draft class is a good thing. But the other thing that really needs to change is your free agency approach. And last year, they were so, from the outside looking in, so bogged down for that first week of free agency, trying to get deals done with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, that all they did was sign a couple of role players for their defense that desperately needed help. Didn't do nearly enough. That whole thing needs to change. I understand that the quarterback's on his second contract and you're paying these wide receivers money. I get all that. They have $70 million in projected cap space next year.
Yeah.
And a lot of work to do on defense.
It's why they were good when they were good.
Yeah.
One, I'm not going to paint the 2021 and 2022 seasons, as fun as they were, as like the glory years. They shouldn't be. It should have been the start of something. And that's speaking of Zach's comments. Oh, we can get back there. We've proven it. You've never done it. The Bengals have never done it in 60 years. And so if they're going to do something that they've never done ever, and sure, they do have a quarterback that I think is capable of doing it. He's still got to do it. Guess what they're going to have to do? Get creative. And I agree with you. It's funny. full disclosure, Jake and I did not talk about this at all. But as I was going through Burrow's comments a half hour before the show, I was like, this is the one that really stands out. Because to me, he's telling the front office, hey, I get it. It's a little different than it was a few years ago. I do think we still have good coaches. Zach didn't forget how to coach. Some of these guys are really good coaches. Go get us more talent. And I get I make more. Get a little more creative. And that creative word, I think he's using very loosely because he's probably just asking the Bengals front office to structure contracts remotely close to how some of these other teams are doing it to fit more under their cap. In just almost making a slight accounting change for different bonuses and things. And we went in depth about this with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and how they could have created more cap space with those deals. Obviously, they could have just waited a few weeks and focused on defense and focused on weaknesses. The Dalton Reisner thing, they should have signed him 2 months prior to when they did, and maybe he wouldn't have fallen on his face the first month of the season as he was trying to get into football shape. So there were a lot of things. They failed this offseason. And when Joe says, oh, let's get creative, I think that's all he's asking is, all right, we need to get more talent. I know I make a lot of money. If I need to restructure, I will. I know that T and Jamar make money and all those things, but we need to get more talent in here so we can not just get back to where we were, but get past that and get to a spot where we are a year from now talking about the Bengals as legitimate Super Bowl contenders.
And a lot of this goes to the draft too. And I don't know how much Joe is thinking about their draft success, but if you want to sustain in the NFL, you need to draft consistently better than the Bengals have. They've caught a couple heaters in Duke Tobin's time in Cincinnati. They've had some multi-year runs of great drafting. More often than not, they tend to exceed expectations for their draft picks when they're picking at the top of the round than in the middle or the back of a round. But they need to be more consistent no matter where they're picking in the draft. I think that's got to be part of it too. If you look at the teams that are able to bounce back after going all in, and we're talking a lot about the Rams today, but here we're talking about the Rams again and how quickly they bounce back.
Sure.
They're one of the two teams. Joe Goodberry posted this week. One of the two teams in the bottom 12 or whatever it is in cash spending this year with a winning record.
Mm-hmm.
I think Seattle might be the other.
The Bengals are in there too, by the way. Obviously, they don't have a winning record.
The Bengals are one of the 10 teams that are in the bottom of cash spending in the NFL with a losing record. And obviously spending cash doesn't mean winning. The Browns spend a ton of cash, but don't win. But
sure,
when you spend money, it gives you a better chance. And I think that's true across most of our professional sports leagues in the United States. But yeah, the Burrow quote is, I'm just saying what we've been doing hasn't worked the last couple of years. So now we have to think outside the box and get creative about where we go from here. Do things differently. Evolve. Mm-hmm. That's what he's asking for here, whether it's contract structure, whether it's expanding your scouting department, whether it's changing your approach in free agency and going after some guys, or changing the way you're evaluating your own roster, because everyone can tell. Like, it's not impossible. You don't have to be very smart to see how bad this defense is.
Sure.
It's not something they're not aware of. And I do worry that they're overselling the improvements. I worry when Zach and Al talk about how much they like how the defense has started to show some things. But you can't keep doing what they've been doing.
Sure.
And that's what Burrow's saying. And I think that's like the long-term thing too, right? Going into thinking about his future. If they keep doing what they've been doing and they keep not evolving, at some point, I do think he will get fed up with that. And I think that is what is clear after this presser.
Yeah, it's twofold. They're poor failed free agent classes
in two straight of the most important off seasons in their history, as we call them. I'm done throwing that around, by the way.
Me too. I thought about that yesterday too. We're really on lockstep here. It's wild. Screw you guys. Not saying it. You prove to us that you're going to do more than you did. Like they've approached free agency like they have Marvin Lewis and it's 2017 with Andy Dalton. Like, good God, guys. Like, no, like now is now. And I get that you're spending money on all these other guys, but the poor free agency send them into the draft feeling like they got to get this or they got to do that or they have to. And if they don't, then what happens? And those need picks really hurt you. And it really burns you. And it's like, oh, well, we need to address our defensive front, because if we don't, it's more valuable than safety. And, so you go this route. And then does that feel great? Well, now you don't know. And they're bullish on Shamar. The point is you don't want a linebacker sized hole. And clearly they felt like linebacker was a weakness going into the draft. You don't want this. We'll have plenty of time to discuss it. I think free agency's impacted the draft far too much. They need to be better at both. And good franchises are better at both. It isn't rocket science. I'm not saying it's easy. It is not rocket science. And all they need to do is become an everydayer. Join the Everydayer Club, Bengals front office, because we'll talk plenty about free agency and the draft. I'm sure they will love that comment. We do have a game to discuss. So before we get to the offseason, let's talk about Sunday's game and the final 3 games of the regular season coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. If you're like me and you're eliminated in your season-long fantasy leagues, well, that's where PrizePicks comes in. PrizePicks is daily fantasy the way it should be. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports because you have all of the bowl games. You have big basketball matchups. You have playoff pushes happening everywhere but Cincinnati. And, well, that's the fun, is you can get on all the fun with PrizePicks. With PrizePicks, what you do is you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock in your lineup, and boom, you're in the game. It's simple, fast, available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. And you can choose from a huge range of unique stats. Maybe you want to go with fantasy score, field goals attempted, free throws made, turnovers, passing yards, passing touchdowns. I think Joe Burrow is going to throw for a lot of yards on Sunday in Miami. Maybe you think Quinn Ewers is going to do the same. Well, PrizePicks is the app to download today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right.
As we transition to talk about some football games here, want to quickly shout out John Sheeran, who wrote up a good take on Joe Burrow's discussion about how things have to be different. You can find John Sheeran on Twitter, of course, and his work at A to Z Sports. A good write-up there. And just wanted to shout out John there real quick. And
who?
John Sheeran.
Who?
You know who John Sheeran
is. He's going to love that comment. No, that was strictly for John in my amusement. That's all.
I know. I like the Jay's Got Stats here as we transition to talking about playing Quinn Ewers.
Who's that guy? I don't know about that guy either. You're just making up names.
Jay Morrison, who works with you over at BengalsTalk.com.
Oh, okay.
The Cincinnati Bengals from 1966 to present have the worst winning percentage in the NFL when facing quarterbacks making their starting debuts. And this is something that Bengals fans have talked about a lot. Like, we talked about it with Joe Flacco. The Bengals played Joe Flacco in his debut, I think. Anyway, the Bengals record against quarterbacks making their starting debuts since 1966 is 8-14. That is a 36.5 winning percentage, which is nearly 10% worse than the next worst team. The Rams are 10-12.
Jake just guaranteed a Dolphins win.
Most teams in the NFL, most teams in the NFL have a winning record when playing a quarterback making their first start. There are 6 teams with a losing record, and the Bengals are 15%, nearly 15% below 500 when playing quarterbacks making their first start. That is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Sorry, I have the feeling this is really the only thing holding me back from thinking the Bengals are just going to go to Miami and roll. Like, I think Joe's going to throw for like 400 yards and the offense is going to just put up a bunch of points. But then I'm like, yeah, but rookie quarterback, bad defense. You look at those weapons. We talked about it on the crossover yesterday, but like you look at those weapons and like Darren Waller's a real dude still. Like, he made some nice contested catches against the Steelers. Devin Achane is awesome. I love him. I mean, I love him. I know he's small. He's such a fun player to watch. And Jalen Waddle's still Jalen Waddle. Like, Zay Flowers should have had 2 touchdowns last week. And so I think of it that way. I'm like, well, do they have a tight end that can beat you? Yes. Do they have a running back that can beat you? Yes. Do they have a speedy receiver that can beat you? Yes. So it's very similar to the Ravens on one hand. The other, of course, is Quinn Ewers is not Lamar Jackson. Will this Bengals defense make him look like Lamar Jackson? History says yes at 8-14. And so that's the thing that's really holding me back from just being like, oh, I think the Bengals go there and roll, because I do think Joe is going to play so much better. I think Jamar has a big game. And if not, maybe it's a Mike Gesicki revenge game. Would not shock me one bit. And I kind of expected this offense to bounce back in a big way.
Mike McDaniel's also still seen as a very creative, good play caller who can maximize his run game.
Yeah.
What did you think I was going to say?
Oh, no, I don't know. Lame duck, hot seat. Like I
oh yeah, for sure. But like he's still seen as a smart offensive play caller.
He'll be a good OC somewhere next year.
The Dolphins did just come off of 4 straight wins before they lost to the Steelers and benched their quarterback. But now with Quinn Ewers,
would you rather be facing Tua? Would you rather be facing Tua? Honestly, I would.
No, I don't think so, man. I don't buy Quinn Ewers.
No, I don't either. It isn't even about him. It's just like the unknown.
I know
Tua's known. Tua's not scary.
I know your point.
Like
I do
Joe
think that
Flacco would scare me more than Tua.
I do think that this is the kind of offense that causes this Bengals defense a lot of problems.
Oh boy. Like motions and like puts your linebackers
the misdirection, the motion, the play action, the fast running back. Like I don't have any confidence in this defense.
Contested catch tight end who's like giant.
I can't believe we're
like you can't ask
Darren
DJ
Waller
Turner
right
to
now.
guard Darren Waller.
No, he's like giving up a foot of height.
Oh God.
You can't.
Joe Burrow out there playing safety, guarding Darren Waller.
Quinn Ewers should be
I'll do it
the
myself,
equalizer.
damn it.
The Bengals play Quinn Ewers, Jacoby Brissett, and presumably Shedeur Sanders in the last 3 games. You're running this coaching staff back. You better show me something against these backup quarterbacks. And we just talked about all the reasons this Miami offense should still scare you. If you're hoping this Bengals defense is going to show something this week, it's Quinn Ewers, man, making his first NFL start. If you can't affect the quarterback, confuse this quarterback making his first start, man.
Couple turnovers. Yes, correct.
Mike McDaniel's going to try to make this thing as easy as possible for Ewers. But if you go out there and you lay an egg this week, and you lay an egg against Jacoby Brissett, who's been playing better. Jacoby Brissett's playing reasonable NFL football for the Cardinals, but the Cardinals
Jacoby Brissett's good.
The Cardinals have won 1 game.
He's good
since they started 2-0. They're having a season much like the Bengals.
God, it's embarrassing.
And then it's Shedeur Sanders, whose only reasonable game as a starter for the Browns came against the Raiders, and the Bengals are not that far off from the Raiders. That's your opposition the last 3 weeks of the season. You got to show me something, man. If you're going to run this back with this coaching staff, if you continue to lay eggs, I only become more unimpressed with your decision to run it back with these guys. If you go out there and take care of business, then it's like, okay, they did the bare minimum. Great. That's the best they can do over these last 3 games to me. That's where my expectations are against the teams they play in these last 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine if the offense looks bad again? I really can't. I cannot even imagine it.
You got to have a conversation if that's the case against these defenses, man. I mean, besides the Browns.
Sure.
Myles Garrett game aside. Next 2 games?
Yeah, no doubt. And this is a game where we'll see, like Zach's like, well, we'll see what we're made of. Like I think we already know what they're made of. This is like
we know.
Stop it, Zach. If you're if you're as talented as I think you are, you should still win this game. Like I expect them to win in Miami, but probably shouldn't. I expect them to. And a lot of that has to do with the offense. I think the defense should be opportunistic enough, should be able to do enough. But they have some real dudes over there, dudes that want that are going to put up some stats. And I do think Mike McDaniel, like, that's an interesting chess match right now. 2 guys probably not on the hot seat. I don't think Al Golden's necessarily on the hot seat, but Golden versus McDaniel, and what happens there. I think it's interesting.
Can Al Golden not just do what worked last week? It's been a couple of weeks of just like, this worked before. Let's try it again. Other teams have tape too. Is something that I've had to talk about with Al Golden, and it's oversimplifying it for sure. But
who would you put on Waller? Dead serious, curious. Like Dax?
Dax gives up a lot of height too.
DJ Ivy,
bracket him.
Like none of the safeties are that big though.
No,
you know,
just get help. Like try to get a bracket and underneath over bracket. Play
because
a lot
like
of
you're
zones.
not asking Jordan to cover him one-on-one.
You're going to end up doing that probably. And it's probably
some.
going to give up a catch.
Yeah, and it's
that's a
fine to
tough
give up
matchup.
some plays. You just can't give up the red zone 3rd and 5. Quinn Ewers has 6 seconds and he's lobbing one to Waller, and Waller boxes you out for a touchdown. Like that just
The more annoying thing is just losing them altogether. Like that's been their bigger issue with tight ends, is that they just don't cover them.
That's true.
It's like it's not even the one-on-ones. I mean, that's been an issue too, I think, at times. But it's more like, oh, our linebackers are playing the run and there's nobody within 10 yards of this tight end at the second level. Yeah, nothing.
I don't know what happened. That I agree with. It's one thing if you're out physical, to your point. It's another if you're just not there.
Yeah.
So show up. And checking in at safety, Joe Burrow. I'll do it myself, damn it, Burrow said after the game.
Joe Burrow on the injury report with the knee, went full. Throw him out there at safety. That's what James Rapien wants.
I don't.
Joe Burrow just wants to play ball, okay? That includes
Jamar Chase at punt. No, he's kickoff returner and punt returner.
Yeah, how about that?
Just the third. He's third string for those wondering. It's just in case of emergency, the break glass situation. I'm not sure we see
on that depth chart.
I'm not sure we see Charlie Jones again this season. Ankle. It's pretty severe. Our Locked On Bengals insiders know. We could, but if I'm Charlie, I would play it safe given the situation.
Let's wrap up there, James. We've got the game to talk about for you on Sunday, where we'll be with you after the game for our post-game reactions. And until then, thanks for tuning in today to Locked On Bengals. And until next time, thanks for listening. Hoo day, and have a good one.